Okay, so this is the training program for the student Stakeholder Capitalism Society student internship. And this is an internship in which you're going to help us help corporations and investors provide better organized information on human capital management reporting. And as part of this training session, I'm going to take you through these concepts. I'm going to show you explain to you what human capital reporting is, how it fits into stakeholder capitalism and environmental social governance and ESG. And then we're going to actually show you what a perfect company looks like. And then I'm going to take you through the tools that you will use for your assignment to help us evaluate and grade the human capital reporting of public companies. Does that make sense so far? And please, if there's anything I'm saying, any buzzwords or anything that I'm saying that doesn't make sense, you can just speak up, even though this is being recorded, or you can put it in the chat. Okay, but I may not be monitoring that chat. And I don't have Dorian here to help me, as he often does in these programs. So anyway, I'm going to now share my screen and take you through a deck that will kind of explain this whole process. You guys see my deck, the ROI of people in practice? Okay, so essentially, now have any of you heard of this concept of stakeholder capitalism? Raise your hands. Yes? No? Okay. Well, you'll be introduced to it in a minute. Now, how many of you have heard of ESG, environmental social governance? All right. Well, stakeholder capitalism is the buzzword for environmental social governance. And after this call, I think all of you are already members of the Stakeholder Capitalism Society. I think you all signed up. So I'll send you an email afterwards that explains, a little bit more detail. I already have sent you this information, but folks, this is a really exciting movement. It's an exciting movement potentially for your careers, as it requires a whole new type of understanding of how business works. It's really exciting. It's about people. It's about reforming capitalism. And it's about showing that you can make more money by doing good. There's no trade-off. It's not about robbing from shareholders to pay other stakeholders. It's not about social justice per se through taxation. No, it's those social justice by proving that we make more money by addressing social justice. Having a more diverse workforce, having more diverse customers, having more diverse communities is actually better for business. But anyway, and companies now are talking about this. Investors are wanting information about it. And as you're going to find out in this assignment, and this is a paid assignment, okay, just to be sure, companies are all over the place. They're all over the place. They're reporting. We're going to go through a company together, Microsoft, a well-known company. It calls itself a stakeholder capitalist, and you're going to see how much time it takes to kind of sort out all the information. Our goal is to get them to provide all this information in one place so that we can look at it, compare it to other companies, whether as an investor, a customer, an employee, a supply chain and distribution partner. A supply chain partner is somebody who Microsoft buys products from, and a distribution partner is a software implementer who uses Microsoft.net or other products, the cloud, for their services, for their clients. So again, I'm using buzzwords that you'll need to get familiar with in the world of stakeholder capitalism. These are your different stakeholders in an organization. It's not just employees, it's all your people. And of course, in stakeholder capitalism, it's also the environment. But we at the Human Enterprise Engagement Alliance, in this assignment, you are focused on people. Very important. You're focused on the S of ESG. Don't get confused. You're not involved with the environment, or really not too much governance here, okay? So anyway, for you to do this assignment, I need to kind of orient you toward what you're talking about, okay? I hope this makes sense. So, and you'll get a recording of this. So if it doesn't make sense, you'll have background information, and you can just call me up and talk to me, okay? At any time, you're gonna have my cell number, and you can call me up at any reasonable hour of day or night, okay? So the ROI of people in practice, it's a strategic and systematic approach to achieving organizational goals in the same way that companies use quality management in manufacturing to improve quality, right, in your products. And it's a strategic and systematic approach with clear metrics and a philosophy of continuous improvement. How did we do on those metrics? What were our goals? This is very important. You won't have to take notes, it's in here, but these, I'm going to the thing that you really have to bang into your head. We don't just want to hear baloney from these companies. We don't just want to hear how they want to have a diverse organization. They want to have women here and men there. And blah, blah. No, we want to hear, what are their goals? What is their purpose? What are their goals? What are their practices and methodologies as they align to those goals? And how do they measure that in terms of those goals? Those, I'll get into this again, but there's a basic framework against which you're going to look at everything. And you're going to be able to use this for the rest of your career if you guys get into management in any way related to people management. So whether as an investor, whether in the investment community, looking at companies and evaluating them rapidly and objectively for risk and opportunity, or whether as you get into management, or whether you work for a solution provider, a company that provides solutions to companies to help them improve people. So anyway, to help companies make sense of all this information, we've developed a gap analysis process that are based on ISO standards. ISO is the International Organization for Standardization. They were developed, that was formed after World War II to help with the Marshall Plan, reconstruct Europe across borders. You had to develop standards so that the railroad track didn't just end at Switzerland and then you needed another train to get into Germany. So there, same with electricity, same with circuitry, same with pipes and everything. They needed standards. So ISO became an organization to create standards, and they created the standards ISO 9000 that transformed quality manufacturing. You guys weren't even born then, but back in the 80s, quality in this country was terrible. You wouldn't have thought about found on road dead. It was what we called Ford. And basically, those companies really got their act together. They turned it around with a strategic and systematic approach. And now we need to do the same thing with people, so that people really enjoy working for companies. They don't get depressed on Monday morning. They look forward to contributing. They look forward to advancing themselves. They look forward to giving back and having a sense of purpose. And companies that have people engaged like that do better. And you can't just make that happen by wishing it so. You have to run your company in a strategic and systematic way to accomplish that. So we've developed a gap analysis process that uses these ISO standards to determine the level to which an organization has a strategic and systematic approach to managing their people and measuring it, that integrates the whole concept, diversity, equity, inclusion into the business process, rather than segregating it as a bright, shiny object and nice to have that is meaningless. Diversity theater is the buzzword for the BS. Does this make sense so far? If you have a problem, let me know, okay? And then the idea is that you're going to help us compare companies. You're going to help us, and you're going to get involved at the first phase. But if you're interested, you'll have an opportunity to go further into it. And it's actually good paying work if you can do it, because this is, as you'll see, it involves expertise. So now, why now? Why is this becoming important now? Well, human capital analytics, the data that we're getting about people has proven that people management is critical to business. Companies have always said people, they're number one asset, but you all know it. You're not dumb. It's not true. At most companies, people are an input, they're a sunk cost. Well, now the companies are just beginning to figure out, no, people are an opportunity. Customers, employees, they're a source of wealth, not to extract from, but to create wealth from and to share that wealth with, for a better, more sustainable capitalism. This isn't about socialism. The right wing is actually against stakeholder capitalism because they think it's about robbing from shareholders to give to other stakeholders. No, it's about making more money for shareholders by creating value for customers, employees, distribution and supply chain partners, and of course, the environment and communities. So now public companies now, for the first time, as you're going to see in this assignment, they have to report on their human capital management practices to the extent that they're material to their business. And so far, as you're going to see, that rule, which came into effect last November, has yielded nothing but baloney. In most cases, very few of these reports will live up to the standards that we're showing you. And very few of them are providing the metrics that the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, is likely going to require in the next round of updates, which could happen as soon as a year or two, in which companies will actually have to disclose metrics, not just BS. Oh, that we're committed to having, a diverse organization reflective of our community. No. All right. So tell us, what is your community? What is it? What are your EEOC numbers? Oh, and what are you doing? What methodologies are you using to have your workforce or your customers comport more with the overall demographics of America, which, as you know now, are 40% non-white, right? So we don't just want to hear what their intentions are. We want to hear what their methodologies are to address that intention and the metrics that they use to achieve it. I'm going to repeat myself a lot today, but remember, you're not dealing with a professor here. So I'm just going by the old Broadway show rule. People have to remember something in a plot about you have to tell them 7 times that something before they understand who the real killer is later on in the show. So forgive me, I'm using Broadway show methodology, and you can rate me at the end as to whether I'd be a crappy professor. Okay, I can take it. All right. Thankfully, I have a day job. But companies are now going to have to report on workforce turnover, pay and benefits, training and development, wellness and safety, and diversity, not only of their employees, but of senior management. Now, they don't have to change. They're going to have all white men if they want, all white women, or all black men, or whatever they want. But they have to report it. They have to report it. And then public companies almost always require their supply chain partners to do the same thing. If a General Motors got ISO certified for quality management, it required the parts manufacturers that supply those cars to do the same thing. And they're going to require the same thing of people reporting. We already know that. And on top of that, private equity companies that are funded through private funds, they generally provide similar disclosures, because a millionaire wants to know basic risk information, whether they're giving it to a public company or a private company. So moving on. There's a formal framework for a strategic and systematic approach to people that, by the way, would be very refreshing if our government used this same approach. As a little aside, a lot of people talk about we need government to help with stakeholder capitalism. We really don't. There are no regulatory changes that need to occur. We don't need the government involved. If anything, stakeholder capitalists can help government get out of this stupid, partisan crap. No business could ever function if everybody just disagreed on everything based on a matter of allegiance to one, CEO versus the CFO. Oh yeah, I really like Jane, the CEO. I'm going to go with Jane. No, I like Bill, the CFO. I'm going to go with Bill. And no company would ever work like that, right? We have to work on a sensible basis. What are our goals? What are we trying to achieve? What's our purpose as an organization? What is our purpose? What are our goals? We start with that. What's our culture? And then we have a process approach. We focus on our customers. We have mutually beneficial supplier relationships. So, if we're a restaurant, we have a good relationship with the gentleman who brings in the shrimp from the bayous, right? Or from the Gulf, right? If we're a manufacturing company, we have good relationships with the people that supply parts. We involve our people, Jan, Richard, sorry, Cam, or I'm sorry, I don't remember your name, whatever, you do in that company, whether you're brand new. I want to hear from you. You might have a brand new idea just as a brand new employee. Great companies are run that way. They have a CEO. I remember one time I worked for a big company and I had hired a new guy, and I walked in and the CEO of the big company was in the kid's office. He had a little, office back then, and they had offices. And what's the CEO talking to this brand new low-level employee who worked for me? That guy cared. And that company was a great company. It was employee owned, by the way. Then you have leadership. That always it's led by a great leader who connects the culture of the company to the brand. If you know the original Whole Foods, it's now owned by Amazon, but that's a company. Starbucks, JetBlue, Wegmans, if you know Wegmans, that's a privately held company. Southwest. These are companies, Delta, that they believe that people really are critical. They come up with an overall brand and they link that brand and they reinforce it across the organization. And so you really want to know what these kind of companies look like, because we're going to be paying you to help us find them and evaluate them. Okay. You're looking for the good. All right. A factual approach to decision making, unlike anything you're seeing that the grown-ups are doing right now related to COVID or other issues in this country. We work on facts in business, not facts that are invented by people who make money by creating them, facts that are validated by independent forces from people that don't have any financial stake in the outcome, right? A systematic approach to management. We step back. How are we going to do things? It's not aim, fire, ready. It's ready, aim, fire, right? And then continuous improvement. Those are the principles of ISO standards. Does this make sense? So the traditional approach to management that you guys are going to encounter as you get into business. And by the way, be blunt. If any of this doesn't make sense, or if this is all gobbledygook, tell me. I'll take it, because you guys have to understand this if you're going to do the assignment. All right, and it's a very flat pay. It works out to around $20 an hour. There's no record keeping. You'll see it's a very simple system for you to figure out how to make money, and it's total flex time. You could do it at 3 a.m, and we're going to give you plenty of time to do it. This is a pilot, and if it works out well and you do well, there'll be more to come, and it'll still be flexible. So I was a student for many years, just like you, and I know exactly the schedule of being a student, and we built this around the flexibility that students need. And all of no need to telephone anybody, no need to contact anybody. Everything can be done over the internet, as I'm going to show you, and can be done literally at 3 a.m. I don't recommend it, though. Your mommy wants you to get a good night's sleep. So anyway, the traditional approach to people management, the CEO and the CFO, the chief financial officer, consider people to be a sunk cost. Don't believe what they say. Most have very few formal performance measures for people. They measure things in their factories. They measure things in R&D. They measure money. Oh boy, do they measure money, but they don't measure people. It's like a big iceberg. 90% of it is underneath the water, and they have no idea really what the cost is. The HR manager has a budget to engage people, develop training, but there's no clear metrics. Things are often haphazard. They show, oh, let's do a recognition program. Oh, I think they'd like Fridays off. Oh, let's have a little incentive program. It's all very bright, shiny objects. Do we measure the results? Nope, generally not. So generally speaking, hi, Damar. You're connecting. Nice to see you. Anyway, we also have then the marketing manager. They go off and do their own thing. They make all sorts of promises. Oh, we're going to be the greatest thing on earth. Meanwhile, when you call up customer service, no one ever answers the phone. You can't get through to anybody. Sound familiar, right? That's the way most companies are. They make all sorts of promises that they don't keep. Just as a show of hands here, how many of you believe advertising? How many of you think that when you see an ad, you intrinsically believe it's true? Raise the hands if you do. Nobody, right? It's all lies. What about you, Jan? You think so? No? Well, probably not, right? So anyway, so marketing's off. Now sales is off saying something else. Sales and marketing in companies, as you guys get into business, you're going to learn that sales and marketing don't even like each other. They often disagree, they fight. And then HR, they don't even like sales. Sales doesn't like HR. Companies are very siloed, and operations and administration, they're doing everything they can to kind of satisfy the different contingencies within the company. That, have any of you worked for a business yet? Not really? Well, I hate to say it, this is what you're going to encounter, okay? A strategic approach is we view people as an asset. We're going to make money by growing the pie. We're going to make money by creating wealth for employees. It's not a matter of compliance or our social conscience, or because we're worried about bad social media that we're addressing DEI. No, it's better business. ISO built DEI into its business framework long before George Floyd ever happened, because it's better business. If I'm in New Orleans, if I'm not doing business with the diverse community that's New Orleans, I'm not doing if I don't have the best talent coming from the entire community, if I don't have the best customers, if I don't have the best suppliers, if I'm a white man only doing business with white people, or if I'm a black company only doing business with black people, I'm leaving money on the table. It's stupid, right? Now, some people may choose to do that, right? Might be a Jewish delicatessen in New York that, but guess what? Katz's Delicatessen, I can assure you there are plenty of Catholic people that go to Katz's Delicatessen because they've got the best pastrami around. And you don't have to be Jewish to like pastrami. Same with oysters. Now, by the way, New Orleans doesn't have, I'm sorry, Dorian. No. Your oysters are nothing like ours. But nonetheless, you know where to get a good oysters on the weekend or at happy hour in New Orleans, right? So anyway, the whole idea is that this is all about better business, right? And so you look at the potential ROI of my customers, my people. How can I make money by building better relationships with them all? And you know, most companies aren't run that way. The minute you get on their phone with customer service and wait for a half hour, you already know. End of story. But we don't pay you to do that. We're going to pay you to evaluate other information. So companies that really care about people have a real people strategy that embraces the entire organization so that everybody knows what that strategy is. Excuse me, I have a bad summer cold, not COVID. Anyway, they focus on how can I get the whole organization aligned? Like Starbucks, they want everybody to have an uplifting experience. They want their how can you have how can your customers have an uplifting experience if your employees don't? Right? And how can they have great coffee if their supply chain isn't great, right? And if their supply chain is mistreating workers, that's going to come out, right? So it's going to hurt their entire brand. It's not uplifting drinking coffee that's on the backs of, tortured workers in the Guatemalan mountains, right? So it's strategic, systematic, with clear metrics, with the broadest audience possible for business reasons. Got to watch the clock here, folks. All right, we're good. And then you measure, if you really want to know where DEI is working, not only not only the EEOC numbers, but what is the composition, the level of engagement. If you have good engagement technology, are my customers engaged in our contests, sweepstakes, learning programs, or whatever I'm doing, my events, is how, if I have training for my employees, are all my audiences involved with that? So the whole idea is to see how engaged everybody is in what you're doing, okay? So always think about, what is the organization's purpose? What are the methodologies? What are the methodologies to fulfill that purpose? What are the metrics used to see whether those methodologies are working? And then what are we doing about it? Okay, that's the continuous improvement part. Sorry for the redundancy. I think I've said it 4 times now. Okay, so anyway, so the gap analysis. When we really want to see what a company is doing, we first identify the specific human capital. First off, we want to go back to what their purpose is. What's the purpose of the organization? What are their goals? What are the human capital metrics that they are using to measure that? And then there are 14 different categories that ISO has come up with in terms of the components. I'll show them to you in a minute, of how you engage people to achieve optimal performance, right? Along with the methodologies and the metrics. And then what am I going to use? What am I going to do to achieve them? And how do I bake people management and DEI into the overall business plan and metrics, integrating HR, marketing, sales, and everything? I don't just want DEI or human capital over here in HR. No. How am I making sure that the promises being made to the customers are being delivered to them by the employees or by our supply chain partners, or by our distribution partners, let's say our retailers, et cetera, et cetera. And then and the step 4 is to regularly monitor those metrics and do something about it. Okay, is everybody with me so far? Any questions? Because we're getting into the meat now. All right. So if you're with me, then what this next, I'm not going to take you through every one of these slides. I'm going to take you through a few so you understand them, and then you can go back over it on your own, because I'm going to send them to you. But essentially, we need your help. You guys have an opportunity here to change the world. Believe it or not, this sounds a little crazy, but we're working with big organizations now. Like you may not have heard of it, but if you Google the Conference Board, They're one of the most prestigious business organizations in the world. They have embraced all of these concepts I'm sharing with you, and they are engaging our organization, the EEA, and that involves Dorian and his partner, Eric, in an entire effort to educate corporate America on these principles. So we're not some fringe little crazy nuts in the corner. We actually stand a chance to make a real difference. And you're going to help us do that, because what you're going to help us do is create a template that organizations can use to share information that can help us as investors or employees or customers or other stakeholders evaluate them, and also help the companies develop a plan that's better for America, that's better for the company. So what we did was, and we worked with some really top people, and this guy at Harvard, a great guy, Larry Beeferman, he said, you know, Bruce, there is no perfect company out there. Why don't you invent one so that we can really use it as a model? So what we did here is we've invented a company with a detailed human capital report. We're creating an abbreviated one too, so that they, that's shorter. This one is 14 slides, essentially, that explain what a perfect company would look like. And when you guys are done reading this, ask yourself, would I want to work for this company? Would this company be better for America or for our world if the company were run like this? Okay. So when you're going to be evaluating companies in the first evaluation, not on all of the details of whether they do all of these things. You're going to be focusing, as I'm going to show you in the exercise, on what are they reporting on and how thorough are they on the reporting, okay? But we're giving you this ideal report so that you can visualize the whole assignment, because eventually your assignment would be to actually help us to determine, and by the way, your writing skills is going to have to be pretty good for this, and Dorian is our pedagogical expert here, and he's given me great advice so far on how to do this. So, I'm going to follow his advice. But the bottom line here, there isn't a lot of writing in this exercise. It's going to be one page that you have to write, maybe a half a page, right? Because brevity is always better. Ignore everything I do in terms of brevity and be brief. All right. So these are the 14 elements that we analyze these companies on based on ISO standards 30414 for human resources, and ISO 10018 for customer engagement, supply chain engagement, and community engagement, 12, 13, and 14. The others come from ISO 30414. And eventually, folks, you could get certified. There's a whole career in helping companies develop human capital management plans, and it pays really good money, and doing audits. I mean, this is all six-figure career honey stuff. Yeah, we can have a vacation home, that kind of living. All right. I mean, this is high paying stuff, whether you're working for an investment company evaluating it, or whether you're working for a company implementing it, or whether you're working for a solution provider agency. And by being the first members of the Stakeholder Capitalism Society of Wall Street Advantage and the EEA, you folks are really at the beginning of something that could be very big. And Google stakeholder capitalism, and you see who's involved with it, and you realize, holy cow, and you'll realize that we're part of that. So anyway, leadership, let me get into these various things. Now, so this is a case study of a perfect company and a perfect human capital report that gives you the framework in which to evaluate the reports that you're going to see. And you're going to see, holy cow, those reports are all over the place. How can anybody make sense of that? And you're going to go, yeah, everybody's got to do what these guys say. You got to make it organized, right? So we take all of these elements, we've used the ISO standards, and we put everything into a bucket. Makes sense? And then your assignment is going to be to go through their human capital reports, and I'm going to show you one, to look for whether they are covering leadership. Are they covering compliance? Are they covering costs? Are they covering diversity, equity, inclusion, occupational health and safety? Again, this, just so you know, you guys weren't even in high school when ISO came up with this, okay? And they didn't come up with this. In fact, ISO is an international organization. So there are African people involved with this. They're Eastern European, they're Asians, they're Middle Eastern, they're Arabs, there's Persians, white people. So they put this in because it's good business, not because of Black Lives Matter. It's good business, okay? Occupational health and safety. If my employees aren't healthy and safe, I'm not going to have good productivity. Culture is critical to keeping people focused on what's important. Productivity. If I'm not productive, we're not going to make money. I better be recruitment, mobility, and turnover, right? I better be able to hold on to people. If it costs a lot, if I'm always churning talent and they're always leaving, I'm inefficient. I'm making customers unhappy. Employee bench strength. What that means is that if Jan leaves right away, Richard is qualified to take his job. There's something called job sharing. It's a really cool thing. By the way, if you guys are ever looking for a summer job and you want to make some decent money at a good company, Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's. I'm not crazy about their food, but their whole, like, they really try to make it so your job isn't boring. There's a whole area called job design. And what they've learned is that if you're just doing checkout all day, you're going to get bored. So they'll have you doing checkout for an hour, then they'll move you over to the bakery guy and you'll learn about the new baking goods. Then they'll move you over to fruits and vegetables or over to fish. So the days go by. I've got a neighbor who's a college professor, but he's an adjunct, and he actually works just enough at Whole Foods, at the Trader Joe's, to get their incredible health insurance plan. And he says it's not boring. And he's an English college adjunct college professor. Anyway, and then customer skills and capabilities. People have got to be skilled and capable. Work. What are they doing to achieve that? Workforce availability. What that means is, in other words, if I'm going to grow, what is the availability of talent? Like right now, if you're in the trucking company, a very big thing on your human capital reporting is we are dealing with a major workforce availability problem. There is a strong decline in the desire of people to work in trucking, and there are enormous shortages of employees. We are dealing with it by broadening our definition of truck drivers to include women. We are actually recruiting Afghan refugees and training them on how to drive trucks. And we're looking for Afghan refugees that were truck drivers to train them. We are bringing in the people that are coming in from Mexico. We have an active recruitment process. We are going into the inner cities. We are redesigning our trucking practices so that people don't have to be away overnight, more than one night. We've developed a new process so people can stay. In other words, tell me how you're going to deal with something. Customer engagement, same thing. How are we engaging our customers? Same with supply chain and partners and community engagement. Have I confused you, or does this make sense? Because we're really getting into the heart of it now. Okay. So Damar, I just see your static photo. You look like a really handsome guy, but I don't know whether you're agreeing or not. But tell me if you don't. Anyway, what are the overall intact? So for every one of these, so when you go through these reports that I'm going to show you, and you're going to get a checklist, just as if you were an auditor. Okay, so you can feel very cool. One of you is going to be auditing Microsoft. Okay, that'll be the luck of the draw. But you're going to be auditing the most large public companies, and then we're going to do a PR campaign on this. You're not just working a little thing. We have a media platform, a PR platform. We're going to turn your work into a public report, and you guys are going to make a difference. We're going to share your work, and then we're going to be looking for sponsors who are going to help develop a whole cadre of students like you, starting with you guys. Early birds catch the worm. If you're qualified, and Dorian will be the ultimate boss on this. I report to Dorian on this. But at the end of the day, those of you who qualify, this could be an ongoing gig, for a while to come, if you like it. So for each one of these, when you go through your evaluation, you want to know, what are the overall and tactical goals for this? Don't just tell me, I want to lead the company to greatness. I want to know what your specific goals are, and I'll share you examples in a minute. So I'm not going to go through the examples now. I'm going to share that with you. And then what are the specific methodologies used to address them? How do we bake this into the process? And it's not just DEI, that's a typo. It should be people and DEI. DEI and people are interchangeable. The only reason we even add DEI now is that companies now are dealing with DEI by bright, shiny objects. Oh, I'm going to give money to this charity. I'm going to name some, woman or Black guy or Asian woman in charge of diversity and inclusion, put them off in an office, check, and then forget about it. No. You got to make it part of your business. Are you embedding DEI into your sales, marketing, HR, operations? Because it's better business. If you're not getting the most diverse audience of talent, customers, supply chain partners, and communities, it's crazy. You're wasting my money as a shareholder. Okay. And then what are the metrics used to manage performance? I want to see the metrics against your goals. And then what are the results and what's being done to address them, et cetera, or what opportunities have come out of that? You with me so far? Okay, I'm going to take you to a couple examples, and then I'm going to show you a couple how to evaluate a report. I thought I could do this an hour. Yeah, we will. We should be able to do it in about an hour. Yep.
Bruce, if you can forgive me for a second, I just want to be clear that you're going to transition and say, this is what you need to do.
Yep, I'm going to do that in 5 minutes.
All
Yep.
right, good.
Last
But
15.
this background, if I could just stress, the context of this is very important so that you know why you're doing what you're doing and the impact it's going to have. We already have institutions that are interested in our results. Now we just have to deliver them and produce them and scale up its operation. Okay, Bruce, just want to interject that.
Well, that's very important, and that's where I'm going. By the way, gentlemen, that's what Dorian always does. He makes sure I stay on track. So now, human capital report. This are the things that you're going to be. These are the. Remember, I showed you those elements. And I'm sorry, there's a mistake. I just updated this. The deck will be. There's a mistake here. We've divided, because the thing is so long. We've divided this into 2 parts. So the main parts are leadership, diversity, occupational health, organization, blah, blah, blah. You're going to be looking for these, but we also look for these elements too. That's a small little point. I don't want to confuse you. So leadership, I'm going to give you an example. So I'm going to now in 5 minutes, I'm going to take you through an assignment. Okay. And in that assignment, all right, you're going to be looking for the following. You're going to look for leadership. What is that? Do they state what their goals are as a company? What are they? All right. This company says remember, this is our ideal perfect company here. I invented this company. It's a company I used to work for that was employee owned. It's the best company I ever worked for before I owned my own companies, but small companies. Achieve consistent double-digit revenue growth. This is a publishing company. They want to enhance the marketplaces and lives of all the stakeholders by promoting best practices in their businesses and identifying new markets and business opportunities for their readers. They want to engage the broadest possible audience of customers, employees, supply chain partners, and distribution partners. And always who's in charge. I forgot to mention that. I have to say that 7 times now in the next 5 minutes, 7 times. A chief engaged somebody who's accountable, who's accountable, who's accountable. In every one of these things, who's accountable? We want to know who's in charge. Okay. Leadership. It's the CEO. The chief engagement officer is in charge of implementing the CEO's plan. So what are the tactics? So we bake our values and mission and purpose into all of our processes. So when you're looking at their reports, you want to see, are they doing this? Do they say they're doing this? Have they defined who their stakeholders are and how the company addresses their needs? Okay, what is their overall strategy? What are they doing to achieve their goals through people? And then what are their metrics? And some very common metrics that you're not going to see in these reports. Let me warn you in advance. Very few of these reports are going to get more than a 50% score. This is sort of like the SAT, right? It's totally weighted, all right? But you aren't going to be doing the weighting. You're going to give us the raw data. We'll do the rest, okay? So and I'm going to show you that in a minute. So the metrics, human capital, return on investment, and human capital value add, those are forms of metrics. Revenues, costs, turnover, and referrals of customers, employees, sales reps. Does the company disclose any of that? Chances are they don't. Costs and turnover of the supply chain. Very few companies disclose that. Training effectiveness. That doesn't mean, I give everybody training. No. Do people move up in the organization who take the training? Do they stay with the organization? Okay. How do they diversity, equity, inclusion? It's not just the percentage of employees or customers or supply chain partners. It's, are they engaged in the organization? How are they measuring that? And then same with health, safety, and wellness. What programs are they doing to promote that within the organization? And then what are they doing about it? Now, so you apply the same process to every one of these. Diversity, equity, inclusion. What are their goals? What are their tactics? What are the metrics? What are they doing about it? And I'm going to send you, this is some background reading for you if you're interested. I'm going to send you what this perfect company looks like. You can read it in about 45 minutes or less if you speed read. But it gets into the details of what this perfect company does for occupational health. What are its goals? What are its tactics? What are its metrics? And what are they doing about it? Okay. Organizational culture. You get the idea, gentlemen? Do I have to go any more into this before I show you the exercise? You good? Remember, you can call me up later if you have a problem. I don't mind getting on the phone, but in every case, in recruitment and turnover, skills and capabilities, customer engagement, supply chain and distribution engagement. Always, what are they doing about it? Here they train them through a training program. They conduct surveys. They belong to the National Minority Council in order to make sure they're getting the proper minority supply chain vendors involved. And then they measure it. Operating costs as a percentage of total business. Okay, now you don't have to remember, companies can measure things their own way. They just have to tell us how they're measuring it and why, okay? Community engagement. Think of corporate social responsibility. The best corporate social responsibility aligns to an organization's purpose. So this is a publishing company. They need to have talent. So they go into the inner cities, they go into the rural areas, and they support educational programs that start with kids in middle school, that go to high school, and they support so that those kids come out of high school ready to do internships because they've been properly trained in different areas. And they support technology and math clubs or performing arts that give kids confidence, English and second language programs, school newspaper. They support different things that align. There's nothing wrong with that because that which makes it more sustainable. And likewise, even their strategic philanthropy, they want to they're in New York City. They want to create wealth by bringing up the kids from the underprivileged areas. They want to create wealth. There's a lot of seniors that they want to take advantage of. You follow that? Everything is strategic to the organization's purpose, okay? And then the same with there's an addendum. You go into compliance. How does the company comply with organizational rule? I mean, with laws, costs of people, employee bench strength. I explained that. That's what are they doing to make sure that if Richard leaves, I can replace him with Damar. And then workforce availability, I explained that. That is, am I keeping if I have to grow my company, where am I going to get those new employees? So now I'm going to get into the exercise. Bear with me. First off, we're going to give you a tool. And this will be in your kit. Do you see my screen? I probably have to share it again. Bear with me. Do you see a document? You probably don't, right? No, okay. Bear with me. It is not letting me do this, but I'll figure out a way. Bear with me. Here we go. Okay, we're going to be sending you a document. Here it is. You see it? And you're going to be filling each one of these. This is your job to fill out this for about 20. We might give you 10 companies to start. Yeah, we're going to give you 10 companies to start. It's $20 a company because we anticipate, I've done these myself, okay? It takes about an hour. Now, at the end, there might be a little bonus program, a little surprise and delight program. And if you find that it's really running into a drag and it's taking you a lot more, but I'm going to show you how to do it right now. And you're going to see how you can do it in an hour, okay? Once you gear up, you might even be able to do it in less. Because what you're just doing a checklist here. You're going to go in and you're going to go, you're not going to score the companies. You're just going to fill out the form. And first off, you're going to tell us, where did you get the information? And I'm going to show you how to find it. Was it a corporate sustainability or responsibility report? Was it the 10K report? And I'm going to show you how to find that. And if there's anything else that you find, you're going to specify it. And you're going to tell us the link. You're going to give us the link to it. Okay. And there'll be in little one-page instructions. Don't worry. But as you say, fill this form out and give us the link to that, okay? And then for each one of them, you're going to go through the information, and there's only 2 reports usually to go through, maybe 3. And again, you don't have to read them word for word because you're looking for specific things. You're looking for how many of those 14 issues did they address at all? And I'll show you how to check that off in a minute. The clarity of organizational purpose, did they make it clear? You just have to put in a link on the report. Here's where they put in that, here's where they put in that purpose. And maybe you don't even, if there's a link to it, you put it in. If there isn't, you just tell us where you got it. I'll show you that in a minute. And then did they do it or did they not? Okay. And then the degree to which the metrics align with the goals. So in other words, if they've said that their goals are diversity, equity, inclusion, are they measuring their diversity, equity, inclusion? You're not an expert on how well they measured it. We'll do more of that. You are providing the preliminary work for other people that you may eventually grow into, who then do the final report. You're going to help speed us up. You're going to help us get the information we need so that we can do the entire report in about 2 hours. Okay. So we can get the whole thing down to about 4 to 5 hours max by turning it into a process, right? So then you're going to be looking at 2 different things, and you don't have to score the points right now. You're going to just do checks. If you want to try, you can. That's optional. But the point score is at 0. You don't give them anything if they didn't do it, if they didn't provide any methodology. They get 1 point if they've provided some methodology, and they get 2 if they really explain how these methodologies support organizational goals. Now, we're not asking you to do that in 1 hour, okay? We're asking you to simply tell us whether they're covering that. But if you do that, we're into motivation here, and we will surprise and delight you with any extra effort that you demonstrate. And of course, the biggest surprise and delight was you'll be called back, to do more work if you like it. And then the metrics point is similar. 0 if there's no metrics, there's no DEI metrics, or 1 point if they put in some basic metrics. Yeah, we're 20% African American, but and again, you don't have to score this, but I'm telling you. But if they actually say we are measuring how well we have improved, it's our goal to have more Asian Americans in our organization, or more. We're in an area with a lot of African Americans, or we're in an area with a lot of white people, and we want to have more white people in our organization. Whatever, if you're a Black organization, you want diversity too, right? I mean, the more people, that eat food that from one community into another community, the better. Look at New Orleans. We all go to New Orleans to eat Creole food. So then reporting. Here's the actual corporate sustainability report that you're going to work with. Okay. So yes, did they provide information on leadership? Did they provide information on methodologies? Did they provide metrics of any kind? Yes or no? And then give us a link if you can, right there. You can just type it in, right? To type it in. Yes, no, or yes, some, see human capital report. That's all you have to do, because you're going to have told us up here, you're going to have written up here the link for the human capital report. And I'm going to show you that in a minute. You with me? Am I confusing you? All good? Damar, tell us if you're not.
Nah, you're making perfect sense. I do understand. Yes, sir.
Let me ask a technology question. Is this better as a Google form so that we can easily aggregate and analyze the data better, or in the Word doc the way Bruce has it set up?
Dorian, let's you and I regroup on that. I don't want to hold these young folk up. I want them to be able
Fair
to
enough.
start someday.
Okay, keep going. Okay.
So if you have it, we can do this as a Google collaborative. In fact, folks, okay, we practice what we preach. We want you to be part of the process of how to make this better in every way. So everything that, in fact, even this training session, you could say, Bruce, you didn't need to go into that. We got it. Send us this, do this. Damar may have a different learning process than Yan and from Richard. But nonetheless, we want all of your input, and everything that you say will be listened to, and we will be acknowledged, and we will tell you what we did with it. Okay. And we will tell you if, well, here's why we didn't do it. Okay. Because you're
Bruce,
going to be,
oh, sorry.
go ahead.
For the methodologies in the table, is it all right if we could just like, if we do find it in the report, like just copy and paste it?
Yes.
Or, okay.
But that's action above and beyond the call of duty.
Oh, okay.
But yes, you could do that. Will be more. Yeah, because we want to keep this to an hour right now. But yes, if it's easy for you to copy and paste it, I love the way you think, Richard, because that's the way I did it. By the way, I have done every one of these things myself. Okay. So nothing, I've done 6 of these. All right. So we're not asking you to do anything that I haven't already done. All right. And that's a key to leadership, folks, in my view. You know, the general who leads you into battle should have fought there and, you know, sacrificed her butt before she makes you do it. So anyway, now I'm going to show you how to, now we're going to go to Microsoft and I'm going to show you how to find this information. You with me? All right, because now you have to find it. And there's 2 things that you're going to be looking for. One of them is going to be, bear with me, their human capital. For every public company, they now have to publish what's called a human capital report. And this article, and I'm going to send you all of this as part of your welcome kit over the weekend at the latest, because as far as I'm concerned, and I'll tell you about money in a minute, you know, it's not a ton of money, but we'll tell you how we can pay you when, right? And you get the work done, you get paid, period. And, you know, we can talk about that. And anything about any process that we use here, even payments, will be subject to continuous improvement. Right now, we're doing this on a shoestring. We do anticipate, though, you know, we're kind of seed funding this, but our goal is to use your work to go out and raise money to find other people to support this, and then we can really ramp it up. So for now, we're, you know, Wall Street Advantage and my company are funding this. So, and doing it as sweat equity. So anyway, this is a report where we analyzed sort of informally these reports, and they're meaningless. You're going to find out, okay? But this is where you learn how to find the reports, okay? Because you have to go to the SEC, and this is where you go. All right. Do you see my screen? SEC search? Yes? No? Yes? Okay. So what you do,
Yes.
and I give you the links to this, they're here in this article, but they'll be in your instruction manual. This is how to do it, right? And what you do is you go to this search thing, then you click on the more search option, okay? And then this screen comes up, because when you go to the screen originally, it just shows you all the companies. But here, it just shows you, oh yeah, I won't go to that. Just shows you the name of the company, but then you hit more search and you get this. So you type in human capital, then you type in the name of the company that we're going to assign to you. You browse by filing type and you click 10K right here. All right. That's the basic report that companies have to report on their activities. And then you put in filed from 11/09/20, and you don't have to memorize this, but that's when the human capital reports were first required, and filed to today. And then that's it. And then you do search. And when you do just human capital, it turns up a whole bunch of company names. That ain't going to help you. So then what you want to do is put in Microsoft, because that's going to be, one of you is going to have that company to look for. But we're going to be giving you those companies, and each of you are going to be assigned 10 at random. And then you go search, and then only Microsoft comes up. And then you go to their annual report. Now, by putting in the word human capital, excuse me, it's not letting me, let me change this, move you guys somewhere else. Bear with me. It's I'm having a little share problem here. Oh, wait a minute, excuse me, gents. Here's the problem, hitting on the wrong thing. right, I got to move you so I can get this, so I can look at this. Okay, here you go. All right. So now I go to their annual report. Now, the reason that I put in human capital is at the end, the 10, most of you know what a 10K is, right? Well, it's filled with a lot of other stuff. So by putting human capital in, we make it easier for you to find the human capital report, okay? And you scroll down and you'll see human is highlighted. And now you have to look, take your little checklist, and it might even be easier to print it out, or if you work with two screens, right, you'll have two screens up, put your other screen up. And this is where cutting and pasting, Richard, is exactly very easy. If you work with two screens, you just go right through it. And for your preliminary report, you can just cut and paste the stuff, and that's what I did, right into the category. So okay, reinvent productivity. That's their, so first off, you want to look for their purpose. Okay, so the very start, you want to see what is their business. So you have to look at the beginning of the report. Okay, here's their mission. They've said what it is. Okay, they got a check, right? They've said what their mission is. They bring technologies together, blah, blah, blah. It's all sorts of nice talk. Okay, now there are no metrics there, but they've said what their purpose is. Good, so they might check that box. Oh, and they've even gone into more specifics. They've reinvented da, 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 da. All right, great. So they're doing pretty good on leadership. Oh, they're talking about, so yeah, okay, create more. These guys win on leadership, right? They've got a purpose, they've got a mission, right? Future opportunity, right? Do they check off the box? Wouldn't most of you say? Does it make sense? All right. Now nobody puts things in any order, which is another thing that drives everybody nuts. If you're about, so like, what are they putting in corporate social responsibility in the middle of a 10K report? Shouldn't it all be organized? Well, it should, but they don't. So now you go and, okay, so, corporate social responsibility. What is that commitment? Now remember, you're not E, you're S. So when you hear sustainability, that means environmental, that means social, that means governance. The EEA, Dorian and Bruce and Eric are the S, okay? So corporate social responsibility does fit into that. That fits under community engagement. Corporate social responsibility fits under, okay, what are they doing for the community? Organize this by, okay, addressing racial justice and inequity. Now, but let's look at this for a moment now, because this gets down to looking for claims. Okay, look at all our wonderful things. So they say what they want to do, right? Okay, and now these efforts include increasing our representation and strengthening our culture of inclusion by doubling the number of Black and African American people managers, senior individual contributors, senior leaders, and supply chain banking partners. Okay, great. Sounds good. So you can cut and paste that or put that into supply chain, right? And by the way, that could apply. You could copy and paste that, Richard, if you were doing that, into supply chain, into community. You can do that, right? At least for your background. But now, and then, they said they're putting in $50 million more, okay? Now, then they say we have more than double our percentage share of transaction volume. That's a good thing, right? That's metrics. So you could now go metrics. Okay, check. They put in metrics. They said what their goal was, and they said what their methodology was, and they said what their results were. That's a good score, guys. Make sense? Disagree if you want. Come on. Damar?
Makes sense. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it makes sense. Just a quick question. How do you derive scores from these categories? Like how much is each of them worth?
Well, as I said, and I went over that before, and I know, as I said, you have to say things 7 times.
Yeah.
That's not your assignment, is the good
Okay.
news. But
So we're just evaluating whether or not it's there.
that's right. But
Okay.
hey, bonus points. Bonus points if you evaluate it. Damar, here's how you evaluate it. This would get a 2, theoretically. They've stated what their purpose is. They want to increase African American and Black participation. And they even know the difference between African Americans and Black. Give them credit for that. All right. Right. Because there are you know, that's a very sensitive thing. If you're Haitian, you have a different view of things, right? So anyway, the bottom line is, or if you're African, you're not African American if you're African, right? So anyway, so they understand what they're trying to do. They've defined it. They've said what they're doing, and then they've told us their results. Now, I wish they would have given us real numbers, but give them an A for effort. So I'd actually give them a 2. Now, if they had only said, DeMar, well, this is what our problem, we want to double it. And then this is what we've done, a 5-year sustained effort, but then they didn't say anything about the results, you give them a 0. Or if they said that our current workforce composition is less than ideal, and we're trying to change it. You give them either a 0 or 1 for metrics. But here, they've given us metrics that are pretty specific, that are aligned specifically with their goals are. That's the magic. And I want to go back to this slide here. This is the magic slide that you always want to, in fact, it's on your document here. Go back to the document. Oh, sorry, that is another document. Here, always look for the methodology. Is there a goal? Does the methodology address the goal? Do the metrics address the improvement? Think of it as if you're an athlete, pole vaulting or whatever you do.
Bruce, I don't mean to interrupt you. My computer, I still have defining human capital in 10K annual report, 1 of 28. Is that just my machine, or is that everybody's machine?
It's probably everybody's. Hold on, new share. Here we go.
Technology is great when it works.
Here you go. So you should now see my Word doc again?
I see your Word doc now, yes.
Okay, good. So always refer back to this for what you're looking for, gents. It's right on this form. We tried to put everything. The only thing we didn't put there is how to search for the company, okay? But I've only showed you now, but let me just show you a little bit more of their human capital report now, because it's all over now. Most of them will have a human capital resources section now because of the new 10K requirements. Oh shit, excuse me, I am late to a call, and I'm just gonna have to be late. Nothing I can do. All right, moving on. Wait a minute, I better do something. I'm being rude to this dude. I am screwing up. Sorry, because we have to finish this. Bear with me 1 second.
We have to keep that in the video.
Bruce, if it's mandatory for you to leave, I think I do have a rather good grasp on what it is that you want. You did a very good job of explaining it, so thank you.
Well, I'm almost done, Bear. And you know what? I'm just gonna continue on for 5 more minutes, and then that guy, he's driving somewhere. He'll forgive me. So anyway, you can actually, I believe now, open this up as a document. I didn't know that. There it is. So you can now open this up as a full document. It's not built in a database though, gents. So if any of you know anything about databases, forget it. We actually wrote a script to try to intelligently import this stuff, and it was still 80% wrong. I mean, it was about 80% right. But anyway, you have to go through the entire report and look for things that are related to human capital but then look for most of them will have this human capital resources. Do you see my screen again? Do you see the 10K? No. Here it is. Sorry. We're back to the 10K. So they have culture. So they address organizational culture. So they score very well on what they do or what their goals are. Our employee listening systems, they explain what they do. And then they say, during fiscal year, our daily pulse surveys gave us invaluable insights on what we could do to support employees. But they didn't tell us what they were doing, and they didn't give us any really clear metrics. But we might give them 1 point because they told us that 88% of employees participated in a survey, but they certainly don't get 2 because they haven't told us what they did. But you give them these. So, but from your standpoint, guys, all you have to do is you could check off and go. If you want to score it, go ahead, or you just check off and go. They explain culture, but no clear metrics. Okay. That, and they same with diversity and inclusion. Okay, they do have EEOI. They have disability representation, detailed breakdowns of their population. But what they don't tell, and that's great, you give them a 1 for sure, but they tell us their goals, and then do they really tell us what they do? Okay, they have everybody allow them chance to be their authentic selves and do their best work. We support multiple highly active employee resource groups. Okay,
Blah,
that's
blah,
pretty
blah.
good. Okay, but then what do they do now? I only one here because they don't tell us what is the percentage of promotions, internal mobility, or engagement in my rewards and recognition or total rewards programs. I want to see, if to get a score or 2, I want to see how how everybody is in it. In other words, as Dorian likes to say, it's not enough to get everybody to come to the party. Are they dancing together? How many parties have you been to? Oh, sure, it's integrated. So why is it that all the whites are dancing together? What's going on here, right? Same with total rewards. Okay, now total rewards, that fits under culture and organizational culture. You might have a few questions about that. Email me, but culture, anything total rewards is culture. Pay equity, that that's under culture and organizational culture. You can put that could also, yeah, I would put that under organizational culture. And here they talk about pay equity, but how do they measure it? You want to see our intended result is global performance. I mean, these guys are doing pretty good relative to most guys. This is good. Wellness and safety. It's almost as if they're following the ISO standards, isn't it? Right? You're not going to find many of these. Wellness and safety. So now you've got this covered. But there really aren't any really good data points here, are they? They tell us what they're doing, but there are no metrics. This will not comply with the ISO standards that are anticipated to come out. Learning and development, that comes out of skills development. New ways of working might very, very well come out of new ways of working might very well go into job sharing. You kind of have to read it and look at it. And then for the other things like customer engagement and supply chain engagement, you have to look through it. We're now out of the, see that? Now, productivity and business processes, that does not relate to the productivity on your chart. So there's nothing here on productivity. They get a 0. I don't see anything on human capital costs. They get a 0. They didn't have leadership in their human capital report, but they had it elsewhere. So we'll give them a score. But now when you won't write this up, but when we write this up, we're going to say Microsoft provides a lot of good information, but they only cover about 8 of the 14 things that they have to provide. And it's all over the place. You can't find it. Okay. And I have one more thing I have to show you, but let's go all the way through it. Where do they talk about customer engagement? Let's see. What are they doing about customers? They technically don't have to report that. Okay. But okay, they talk about their competition, but what about their customers? Windows, gaming, search advertising, product development, investing in the future. Okay, OEMs, distribution and resellers. You want to look for this. This is their supply chain here, right? So distribution and resellers, what are they doing? What are they doing to engage them? Do they have any metrics? Doesn't look like it. It's a lot of baloney, right? So here's what, again, to give you a sense of purpose. Okay, and the rest of it's going to be irrelevant. Risk factors, you don't have to go through this. Now, you see how quickly I went through that? It took me 10 minutes. All right. So the prep took longer. Now, there's one other report to look for. Besides that, companies are now publishing sustainability reports. And you have to go to their websites and find them. And not all of them publish them, and some of them put them in all over. So you go to Microsoft, then go to the very bottom, and you have to look for it. Now, some companies will say corporate sustainability report, and they'll break those out by, and I'll show you another example before we wrap up. So here you for it. Well, what about under About Microsoft? Click on that. It doesn't say corporate sustainability. Now gone to About Microsoft. Oh, okay. Now you see a corporate, now you see it. But it's not just in one place. You kind of have to look. This is that other report that I mentioned, okay? So this is going to, you also have to, happening, because these things can be pretty long. So but you might want to go through, okay, our company, what else do they report? A senior leadership board of employees, okay? So you have to go through this as well. And so when you your report, you're going to go up here and give us a link to the files that you've gone through in addition when you reference them. You also look at, and you also
You can bring it here
the
if you want.
information.
I'm not on the screen.
Okay. Oh, wait a minute. Do you see my screen? Did you see the corporate responsibility report? No. Bear with me. Boy, is this annoying. Sorry, gents. Share. Here we go. So you now see Microsoft? Yes. So you go to Microsoft, you go to their website. I think you didn't see this. You go to the bottom, you look for corporate sustainability report. If you don't see it, you look for stuff like about Microsoft, and then you look for the elements of this, and it doesn't take long, that are about people management or customers. And you're always some facts. But you don't have to go to worldwide locations. You might look at compliance quickly for the compliance section. Okay. Do they have a compliance? Yeah. So yeah, you'd want to look at this. So that when you're filling out that report, though, you want to tell us whether you found the information in the SEC report or whether you found it here. And if you, by the way, if you copy and paste something, gentlemen, always put us the link into it. So for instance, if you say, yes, they have a very clear compliance strategy, you copy and paste it, and you go right to the Word document, which it's not going to let me show you to do. Well, here, now I've gone to the Word document. Pardon me, I'll share it. New share. Here you go. So now you go to that document, you can go right here. Here's the link. Bang. Okay. And then that, Richard, is something really helpful to us for the sustainability reports, to put in a link where you reference it. Okay. And you don't even necessarily have to, but yes, they have the information. Here's a link. Makes sense? So now, so some companies bury it. You're going to have to look around, and when we write up this thing, we're going to say, hey, great stuff. It's all over the place, right? Our trust code is over here, more about awards and recognition, blah, blah, blah. So you have to, you're going to have to go through this stuff. But, and then accountability, they say who's accountability here, but then they don't say who's accountable elsewhere. So what we want to come out of this is that we're going to send this to Microsoft, your report, and we're going to use it in shareholder engagement. We're going to say to Microsoft, hey, you're providing lots of great information, but it's all over the place. We had to pay students hours to find this stuff. No, put it in one place so that we can find it and read it quickly, right? Makes sense? So here's a company where it's easier to find it. This is a company like Micron. One of you might be assigned this company, but right on the bottom of their site, they should have, last time I looked, but I have to move you guys up here. You see, sometimes you're going to have to look, right? Sales support contact, it's probably down here, and I can't see it. No, suppliers, careers, about. So you look at about, redefining what's possible. As soon as you see bullshit, you probably know that you're heading into human capital stuff. Broadest innovation, our values, people, innovation, coming together, join our team, our lab, doing business the right way, our stewardship, empowering people. Now, they do have a human capital report somewhere around here. So sometimes what you might just do when we give you a company, go Micron human capital report, see what comes up. Yeah, there it is. Bang. Okay. There it is.
Bruce, are you on the Word doc or are you on the website?
Oh God, Zoom makes you change every single time. Sorry. What I did to find, you now see fast forward. right? I just
Yes.
Googled Micron Human Capital Report. And that came up. So I couldn't find it on their website, but here it is. And always look for the latest one. Now, look at this. Micron sets the standard for corporate responsibility report. That's us. That's our company, gentlemen. Okay. Came up pretty well in that Google search result. And they did pretty well. But we gave, and so here's I'm going to send this to you. This is one of the ones I did. Now, we don't expect you to do it this thoroughly, okay? Right? But this gives you an idea. That's those of you who can make the cut. You guys, this is, I'll send you this as a sample, okay, of what, and this report only gets a 26 out of 58, okay? And it's one of the best we could find. All right, I think I've shared with you a lot. So here's what your kit's going to be. Your kit's going to be your 10 companies. You're going to get paid $20 each. Right now, we have it set that you guys submit them, and you'll be paid within a week. You'll be under $600. So we're not going to send you a 1099. Now, if you will not get a 1099, and there'll be no withholdings unless you go over $600. Okay, in work. In which case, and even then, we don't have to technically withhold, but you might want to. But that's phase 2. Okay. Number 2, you'll be given 10 companies. You'll be given background, like including this. You'll be given the form. You'll be given the deck, and you'll be given how to get to those SEC reports. That should be it. And then you'll be given my phone number and Dorian's phone number and email addresses if you have any questions. And then you have 2 months to do it. Okay, 2 months. And if you're running into trouble, you'll let us know. And if you do it faster, you'll get it done faster and you get paid faster. Okay. And if you want to do it piecemeal, in fact, I would highly recommend that you send us one. And what we'll do is we'll pay you as we go. If you send us one and we approve it, bang, it's coffee money, $20, but you'll send us, if you send us your banking information, we'll just send it to you electronically, or we'll send you a check, whatever.
Just a second, Bruce. We will expect a minimum number to be done in the first 30 days. So we're not going to rush you. Yeah, we're
Dorian,
not going to.
you and I give them the rules in our written thing, and Dorian is going to come up with those rules, okay?
Yep.
And then Dorian will tell me how we're going to pay you. But do you guys use Venmo or Zelle or things like that? We want to pay you electronically if we can.
Bitcoin, crypto.
Yeah, but what kind? No, we're going to pay you good old American cash, okay, guys? So anyway, any other questions?
When should we expect the email, like the packet?
Monday.
Monday? Oh, okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
And then there'll be the final rules as to when we need what, and we'll give you your 10 companies as well. Okay. And then you'll be able to call me or text me or, call me or email me if you have any issues. Okay.
Questions. When will we have access to this recording?
Oh, by tomorrow.
Perfect.
All right, gentlemen. Well, we really thank you. We look forward to you. And hopefully this is a historic day in the little world of stakeholder capitalism.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thanks again,
Thank you,
Jen.
Bruce.
Talk to you
Thank you.
soon.
Have a good one.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.